Hello and welcome to the Mysidian Legend Podcast. My name is Alex Scott and I'm joined each week by David. Say hello, David.
Hey guys, long time no see. Hope y'all are doing well.
And if it's your first time listening, each week we cover our locals experience, including our deck lists and how we can improve our play in the future. But this week we're actually joined by a special guest. Say hello, Phil.
Hey guys, how's it going?
So if you're a long-time listener, which let's face it, there's none left because we haven't done a podcast in a while, you've probably heard us mention Phil quite a few times because we talked about playing him and how he abandoned us, etc. So all of us played together at the St. Louis locals online on OCTGN this week and last week. So we thought we'd have him on.
Yeah, I think the special part of special guest is definitely the most accurate. He's certainly not a welcome guest.
Oh, I appreciate it, guys. I feel so welcome here.
Great. Well, I'm glad that we made you feel welcome. We did invite you. So before we do get started with the podcast, though, I'd like to mention our deal for our listeners. If you shop at Cards That You Release for your singles, you can use the promo code PORUMPALUM10 for your purchase. And when you do that, it shows that you support the Mysidia Post and it gets you a nice discount on your order. So that's PORUMPALUM10 and you can order today. So we're going to get into our deck lists that we played at this event, and we're going to start off with our guest, Phil. So, Phil, what were you playing? And just tell us a little bit about the deck.
Sure. So I was playing a water ice with Splash of Fire, but it was a Final Fantasy VI base monster deck. I went 1 and 2, so it wasn't a particularly successful week. But mainly, I was trying to use Realm as many times as possible, and I was also kind of trying to make the deck revolve around a core combo of Barthandalos. Yeah, that's pretty much my deck. Just a little intro on it.
Yeah, so you showed us your deck in our group chat, and then I made my own version of it. Basically inspired by you. So what was the key thing, like what was the thing that you put in your deck to make Barthandalos work?
So it was the bomb from Opus 7. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It's a 2 CP monster, and its first ability is put bomb into the break zone, choose forward, deal it 3,000 damage, and deal 2,000 damage to all the forwards opponent controls. So essentially 5,000 damage to that one forward, and then 2,000 to the board. Or its secondary ability is just a straight discard it, and choose one forward, deal it 2,000 damage. You can only use this ability as long as it's in your hand. So I essentially tried to put as many ways to cheat bomb into the game in this deck. So I used Realm, Gao, and Sitboth. And basically I tried to have it on board by the time I played Barthandalos, and so I could just play Barthandalos and then stack the bomb ability to kill 2 forwards.
Nice. Do you have any other ways to trigger Barthandalos in that deck?
I do. I have a Sid Reigns, but that's a bit of a stretch, so pretty much just the bomb. Okay,
and then the rest of your deck is basically 6 monsters.
Yep, just 6. Trying to be as efficient as possible, but yeah, revolving around a clipboard.
So any way to, is there any way to flicker your Bart?
Renoa?
You do have Renoa.
Yeah, I run 3 of the legendary Renoa.
Of course.
Yeah, that's about it.
Okay, so I took Phil's idea and I made it a whole lot better, and it's indisputable because I went 2-1 and he went 1-2. So there's
that sample size. You're right. That is indisputable.
That's pretty solid evidence. So even though we lost against the same guy for one of our losses, so while he went with the bomb to trigger his Barthandalos, so I also did Final Fantasy VI Ice Water, based around Realm and summons. Monsters, and I had Gao. I went the no summon route, and I played Cleone, which is your monster that cancels summons. So it's a 2 CP monster. When either player cast a summon, put Cleone into the break zone. If you do so, cancel the summon's effect. And it has a second effect. When Cleone is put into the field to the break zone, draw 1 card. Into the break zone from the field. So basically, you run 0 summons, and you play Cleones all the time with the same way that Phil was describing that he played his bombs, and you're totally protected against summons. So instead, to trigger my Barthandelus, I ran as much blanket damage as I could. So I run Ultros. So on attack, he can do 2 to 4k damage to everybody. I ran Renoa to flicker all the forwards I'm about to talk about. I ran Terra to do 4k to 2 forwards. I ran Cagnazzo to do about, let's say, 2 to 4k to all forwards, or that's power reduction. And then I also had a nickel that reduces power to 2 forwards, and that was on average about 2 to 3k as well. So, and then there's a Tonberry monster. So lots of different ways to combo with the Barthandelus. It became quite easy. And with the Opus 1 Terra, I actually found that I was able to use her Magic Charge special. And I'm actually going to read that out because I don't think a lot of people are familiar with the Opus 1 Terra. It's been gone from the meta for such a long time. So she's a 4 CP 7k ice forward. When Terra enters the field, choose up to 2 dull forwards your opponent controls and deal them 4,000 damage. She has an action ability, pay 1 ice, choose a dull forward, deal it 1,000 damage. And then her special is Magic Charge, cost is 1 Terra. Terra gains, if Terra deals damage to a forward, double the damage until the end of the turn. So basically, if you have an extra Terra in hand, if you play her, you can Magic Charge and you can do 8k to 2 dull forwards instead of just 4k. But any combination of those cards, like Terra and Cagnazzo, Terra and Nickel, Terra and Ultros, like there's a lot of different ways to clear things. And then the one other big difference from Phil's deck is that I played 3 of the Opus 11 Rosas and 3 of the Opus 10 Cecil backups. So Rosa draws a card if you have Cecil in play, and then you just try to play the Cecil backup and you've got an EX Burst draw card. So worked out pretty well.
Nice. I mean, you did better than the original architect of this deck, so you deserve the kudos.
Not saying much, but yeah.
Yeah, like you said, small sample size. So David, what about your deck?
This week I played a Summoners list, thinking I was super stoked about Summoners when it became evident that they were going to be a playable archetype. So yeah, I'm running 15 forwards. Most things you can probably guess. You got Braska's Final Aeon, Citra, Garnet, Unalesca, yeah. And I'm playing the Wind Una instead of the Light Una or the whatever other Una you might see fit. Because, being able to draw 6 summons out of your deck is absolutely crazy. And I like to draw a lot of cards. Even if you got to pay an extra 5 for it, it can sometimes be worth it. And Fina as well, because Fina Veil Force still has to be a thing no matter what. I'm running 19 summons because of the Una. I like to be able to just get a whole bunch of summons in my hand, just go bananas, especially because they can all be cast with whatever CP you have when you have Una out. And then when you get to the backups, I'm running 16, and there's a lot of color fixes for all the different colors of summons. So like you got Cosmos, you got 2 of the Dougals, the class 8th, Wind Earth one, and then the class 4th, Water Fire one, so you can still cast your Phoenixes. You can still bring up Braska's Final Aeon without needing, or like just whenever, right? So yeah, that's my Summer's list. Pretty Wind Water on the backups, but because of Cosmos and the Dougals, color fixes you. I got a fun little interaction with Norstallin, which can search either the Wall Trill or the new backup we got, 3 CP Clavat. Basically, you turn over a card until you reveal a Fire Ice card, add it to your hand. So just another basic 3 CP backup that nets you another card.
Yeah, but often what card are you getting with that? What fire card?
Well, it's either Phoenix or Braska's Final Aeon.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, but you're not complaining if you get either of those.
It's nice to guarantee that, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I just had a quick question about that, like the high summon count. And Una, does it ever make you worried about deck out? So if you're drawing 6 per time you do it, and maybe if you do it twice in a game, it's 12 cards out of your deck.
Well, Phil, what is my favorite card in the game?
Unfortunately, it's 2 CP Zidane, the Water.
Do I strike you as the type that's really worried about decking out?
That's true. I guess you don't really think very many turns ahead. That's a good point.
I'm not thinking 50 turns ahead. No,
You're not thinking one turn ahead.
hardly. Yeah.
So I actually like your deck a lot. I think obviously we need to keep practicing with it. But one thing that's nice is that you seem to always set up pretty well. Like you get to 5 backups easily. And when you drop Braska's final Aeon, it's so hard to deal with. I think it's just kind of the turns where you don't have anything to do that we have to figure out, because that's like the issue I seem to see with that deck, is like sometimes your hand is too reactive or just there's not enough to do with it.
You're totally right. Like there was one game today where I had 5 backups by turn 3, because you get like Ico will search you something, Clavado will get you some, Norstallon searches up another backup. It just becomes very easy to get yourself set up. But then, yeah, the couple practice games that we played, I would be like, okay, I just need a summon, and there's 19. Like, I need something to do here. And then I'll draw 2 backups, and it's like, okay, well, there's absolutely nothing I can do with these. I guess that's the problem with every deck, but if I draw dead, that's it. I'm taking 2 or 3 hits of damage the next turn.
Yeah, and other decks have, like, how many forwards do you have again?
15.
Yeah, so it's much harder for you to just play some forwards and kind of get on board than it is for another deck that's stalled.
Yeah, exactly. Like I played a mono fire today in practice, and no matter how many forwards I threw down, which is never all that much, like 2 is pretty much max the amount of forwards I'm getting out in a turn. You take care of those, and that just ends any sort of tempo that I tried to build up there.
We all played against that mono fire, that same mono fire.
Yeah, Stephen R's mono fire.
Yeah, it was almost like a mill list.
Yeah, I mean, that's not how it went with me, but we're going to get to that right now. We're going to talk about our matches. So, Phil, why don't you start us off to kind of talk about how the general tournament went for you?
Sure. I mean, it didn't go particularly well for me. Just get that out of the way. I won my first game against Travis. As I understand, he's a frequent collaborator on the Mysidian Post.
You got it.
So I played against him for the first time. That was fun. Don't really remember much about it, except it was really grindy. And he was playing mono ice. And I got down to 4 cards in hand. 4 cards in deck, and I closed out with by canceling a summon. I believe like I Edwarded a summon. Main thing about that matchup was that I think something I'd change, I guess, across all 3 matchups is that my deck tended to get backup clogged. I had 17 backups, and very few of them are breakable. I think the only one is Sidwoff. That's the only breakable backup. So definitely that's something I'd change going forward. And that's the main takeaway from the first game. The second game was against that Fire Mill list, and I think he only played Kadaj the entire game. That was his only 4 that he played. And I don't even know how many Ifrits he ran, but it must have been like 20-ish or so.
I think he said he was running 12.
Jeez.
Really?
All the Ifrits.
It was something stupid.
It was insane, yeah. So I couldn't get it. I'd be playing maybe 1 or 2 forwards every turn. He'd still remove them like without fail, and he'd have a Kadaj that would come back and slam every now and then. So yeah, that game went as well as can be expected. And then my last game was that one. It was against Mono Lightning, and it was Mono Lightning's, I guess, very aggressive, and I also misread Kadaj to lose myself the game. So that felt really bad. But so I think the main takeaway was that the backups, I need to run less backups and more breakable ones, I guess. I just found that there were way too many dead hands. And there weren't enough proactive plays, I guess. I'm used to being able to, like, if I have some CP remaining, I can maybe do something with a backup and then play another one. But I couldn't do that in this deck.
Yeah, so we'll talk about soon what you might change in the list, and I'm going to put all the deck lists in the description for the podcast, so you'll be able to check these out as we're talking about them. But I'll quickly compare my matches to Phil's. So round 1 I was playing against Mono Lightning that was 15 base, so Kingsglaive and Aranea. And my opponent got out to a pretty fast start with Alcid and all sorts of, I think, Nyx and Libertas and Aranea. And I used a lot of different removal. I was able to Magic Charge special him with Terra. I was able to play Barthandelus with Ultros, and it still got super grindy. I ended up having at the end of the game like 6 or 7 forwards, but I had a lot of damage to make up, and I had to be so careful because of the amount of haste he had, all the dull that he had. The big thing that helped me out quite a bit was my Cleone locking out his Bahamut Zero so he could never cast it because he didn't have a summon to bait the Cleone with and then cast the Bahamut Zero. So because of my 7 forwards, I was obviously able to push through eventually. Tonberries was another huge player in that game for me. The second round was against David, and it was just kind of a sad match. It's literally every time.
It's a sad game.
Like, as most games with David generally are.
Honestly, every time we do a podcast episode where I play David, he bricks, and it was kind of a different type of brick than he usually does. Because like I said, he played his 5 backups and everything, but I had like turn 2 realm. I had a turn 2 realm lock discard followed, and then I hasted the lock with a 1 CP goblin that realm played for a second discard, and I followed up with like a mirage dive for a third discard, and I just ended up pummeling him, and he didn't really draw. He kept drawing more backups, so he couldn't really like play much, and then he couldn't cast any summons because I was making him discard them if he had any, so it was just kind of a mess.
Yeah, there was one turn that just that was a hard start to come from, because what was it? Lock maybe discard twice, and then my next turn Bookaboo maybe discard twice, so that's 4 cards of discard.
Right, yeah.
In 2 turn in like in 1 turn, like half a turn pretty much. So that sucked. But then there was one big misplay that I made that just absolutely goobered me. And it was the Bookaboo. I hate saying it because it just sounds so stupid. Bookaboo. I discarded something to play a backup, and then you just made me discard the next 2 cards in my hand. Because I don't know, I just farted on.
Right, yeah, you played, yeah, exactly.
Because I had another 2 CP backup in my hand, which would have gotten me to 3 or 4 backups, but because I guess, forgot about what Bookaboo did, there goes all my cards in my hand, I can't play backups, and it was just a crippling turn to try and come back from.
Yeah, big time. I mean, it was just a crazy. I had such a hot start; it was ridiculous. Like, I could not have asked for a better start. It was Strago and Ice backup into Realm Lock with Goblin and Buckaboo, and like honestly such an aggressive start. So my third.
Honestly, that's better than that's better than a 7 CP Sephiroth turn 2 or whatever, because that's 4 cards plus you have 2 forwards on the field. Just a yikes.
So for my third match, I played against Steven R. He's playing his Mono Fire deck. He plays a turn 1 Kadaj, and that plucky Kadaj would go on to swing for all 7 points of damage. I played 2 backups turn 1, so he got a point of damage in, and I was able to do a Realm and another forward. So I was swinging for 2, and he was swinging for 1. So in a base race, I was going to win the match. But every time I swung in with one of my forwards, or swung in, he hit EX Burst Ifrit, which is not unlucky. Like, his deck is built to do that, so it's not. That's the way it goes. But he basically kept all my forwards off the board, and his Kadaj just swung for 7 damage. and I was keeping his hand super low the whole time, so he couldn't do too much more. But yeah, it was super super tricky to deal with. The cool play was what's that 4 CP fire backup that activates when you break something?
I know what you're talking about.
Oh, Mitsuki.
Oh, Matsuki.
Yeah, so when the EX burst, like a weaker EX burst hit for 6k, you could follow it up with Mitsuki and it would activate again, and he'd have CP again if you had someone to cast. So it was just kind of like a fast match, but I just never really got to get on board and do anything because the Kadaj was dulling stuff or going Brave 2k, and any forward I did get out and swing back with was promptly EX bursted.
Yep. Foreshadowing to my game against him, because pretty much lather, rinse, repeat. That's exactly it.
Yeah, so why don't you tell us, we've already heard about your game against me. How'd the rest of your night go?
And God knows is that I don't want to talk about that anymore. Yeah, so game 1 was against the same Monofire, and it was basically the same thing as what you just said. He gets the Matsuki down. He gets Vermilion Bird Lasika Tuna down to pump his summons. And then that's it. He's just controlling the board with Ifrits and Ifritas. And this is actually really good, I guess. Not good for me. Is that, so I get down Braska's final Aeon. Kadaj is already off the field. And he casts like 2 summons that are cheap, like 2 CP Ifrits or something. To kill that Braska's final Aeon, and I can't deal Kadaj 10k because it's not on the board right now. So that self-protection is just bananas.
Oh yeah, it's so strong.
So he was just able to kind of control the board. As I said, like if I'm lucky, I'm getting out 2 forwards a turn, which typically means that casting summons is a lot more difficult. So and my forwards are like 7k, 8ks, so they're pretty easy to deal with. So took the L on that one. Played Alex, took the L on that one. And then I played the same Mono Lightning y'all did in game 3. And yeah, pretty much he was just able to outrace me, which you would think that I would have more things to deal with his smaller forwards, which I do. But it's just a lot faster than this deck is, and he was able to kind of swing in for a win. I think he beat me like 7-0 too.
Yeah, so you basically came up against aggro 3 times, and you were playing a slower deck that didn't have enough stabilization, I guess.
I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it. The thing is that there's nothing too unfair about this deck. I guess we'll get into this when we talk about things we might change, but I just don't, as much as Braska's final Aeon is such a pushed card, you're not going to run 3. You're not going to see it as much as you want, and then it only does one thing, typically, and then it's gone. Right? Either you discard it from your hand and deal 10k, okay, that's sweet. Or they're just going to get rid of it once, and then and then it does its 10k and then it's gone.
I have a thought, but let's segue, like you said, into our next segment where we do talk about what we're going to change about our list. So we'll get into that now.
Segue.
Okay, so David, for your list, have you looked at, are other summoner lists running more Braska's Aeons, or?
Yeah, I'm running 2, so it's not like I'm just ignoring the card. I've seen between 2 and 3. Yeah, I honestly think 2's the right number, but.
And then what kind of summoner forwards do you have? You have Yuna, Yunalesca, and
Yuna, Yunalesca, and Garnet.
And then so Ico is your backup. Is there any world where you change that for a forward Ico?
I've thought about it, because then you can search up your summons, and when she dies, draw a card off it. But then I think I need to have Braska down, and plus I love the EX searcher. It's a tough call, honestly. But that might be the way that it goes because I'm going to need a way to stabilize without slowing down.
I was actually wondering about that too earlier. You've got the Echo, which is really nice because it searches both Brassica and Unalesca, correct?
Yeah.
But then you also have Clavat, which searches both searches Brassica and it also searches your Phoenix.
Searches, yeah.
And well, it pretty much does. Like it's selective. It's really nice. Like a lot of people are using it that way these days. So what I'm wondering is, I wonder if like one of those two cards could be something like a Marrowweb that can search water forwards so that you can get your Ico, get your Unalesca, get those kind of cards out, and then you're able to take your Echo out, your Echo out, or maybe take out your Ico, or like there's a lot of, maybe one of those searchers could be swapped, and then you might be able to access forwards more easily, like just generally any water forward, so that you can do something with your board, play a Garnet or play something.
Yeah, that's not a bad idea. So let's talk about this through a little bit. So this is what I'm kind of thinking is, say we remove the two Icos, right? Let's make them forward Icos. Sure. Put in Marrowweb because that'll search the Garnet Unalesca anyways. I'm running a couple of Glacias, which will draw off Clavat as well. But I'm thinking about maybe switching those out for something else then, and then every time Clavat's getting me a Phoenix or a Brassica.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Out of all the times I've played, I think Glacia has gotten its select up to 2, maybe twice, and I've tested this more than I've tested my Final Fantasy 9.
And how many ways do you have to play the Glacia?
Only if I have Cosmos or Yuna out.
Okay. Yeah, but I guess you do.
There's no way that gets color fixed otherwise.
That's right, yeah. So maybe it's just going back to the drawing board and looking at your summons and doing some swapping.
Yeah, for sure. Because you don't need, with Yuna, right? You don't need to search up to 6 summons, right?
Yeah.
Up to 6 summons, yeah. So I guess I don't need to be that ambitious and be searching up literally 6 different colored summons. Yeah, so maybe I take down the Glacia and I go for, I don't know, brainstorm it and figure it out. Maybe, no. I don't know. Yeah, back to the drawing board pretty much at this point.
I mean, there's a lot of generic good summons at 3 CP, I think.
Do you have Famfrits?
No, because I don't want my forwards going anywhere.
Yeah, but you don't play forwards half the time, so you could just, when they play forwards and you don't, you have these Famfrits. How often do you not have a forward and your opponent does?
More often than I would like to admit.
You could go like big Famfrit too.
Wow. Yeah,
that would make Phil happy.
Yeah, if you're looking for more proactive plays, I guess like something like Mist Dragon or something that you can just play effectively.
Yeah, and I mean, I do have a color fix for that too. More than one color fix for that.
Yeah, that's an option. And I mean, like Break Zone Recursion is so huge in the meta now. So.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Yeah, I think Mist Dragon's definitely a good one. I think the reason people put those big summons in, like for example, the list that we saw in that Japanese tournament was actually running Sildra, which is a 6 CP water summon. Because of the way double cast works, you can continuously cast it. So you could cast the Sildra, then a 5 CP summon, then a 4 CP summon, then a 3 CP summon, and so on.
I don't think that's how double cast works.
It does. No, they confirmed that you can. It doesn't say. It says when you cast a summon this turn, you may cast 1 summon from your hand with a cost inferior to that of the summon that you cast without paying its cost. So if you cast a second summon, you've cast another summon this turn.
Yeah. Oh wow.
Phil, we need to have a talk later.
We were like testing and we weren't sure, but we just assumed that wasn't the case.
I didn't think it worked that way either, and then I remember it coming up on one of the ruling threads and people were talking about it. And apparently it does work that way. So we'll fact check that. If I'm wrong, someone put that in the comments, please, but worth checking out for sure. The way that it's worded, it actually makes sense. Like, when you cast a summon this turn, the second one's being cast. So
yeah, that makes sense intuitively. But I mean, I've been wrong. With that being my reasoning, I've been wrong about cards before. Like, oh, that makes sense with the English that they've used. But
yes, it does. Yeah, exactly. Oh man. All right, so Phil, let's go on to you next. What are you thinking about your deck in terms of things that you might want to change?
Yeah, so I realized I jumped the gun a little bit. I started talking about what I would change. Rookie to this podcast.
But it's like he's never listened before.
No comment. Anyways. So, a big thing I really think was the backups as being unbreakable. I had like a bunch of turns where I couldn't really do much, and also I guess a lot of things were really reactive. So, for example, in the deck against the Fire Mill deck where he had no boards, I often didn't want to play a lot of my cards like Genesis, Umaro, or my whole Barthandelus combo. I was like super excited to do. So a lot of the time, it wasn't that good. I do think Realm is amazing, and I think there's definitely something here, because obviously the Category 6 engine has been tested, but Realm is just such an amazing card in my testing.
Yeah, what do you think about a 2 CP Scholar to break itself as protection, or, play Barthandelus, put it back to your hand, play it again?
Yeah, absolutely. That's an option. There's also that new ice backup at 2 CP when you dull it in the break zone, I believe, and discard a card and search for a card of the same type. Is it?
That's a water backup.
That's a water backup. Whoops.
And it's quite good, yeah.
Definitely an option. That looks really good. Just things to do when I have floating CP, so that I can just proactively maybe at the end of turn and stuff. I think that was the main thing.
Well, there's a new ice backup as well that's super good, and you run summons, so it actually makes sense for you. And that's Black Mage. Have you seen that one? So it actually lets you cast a summon by breaking it and paying the cost, and then it goes back to your hand at the end of the turn, or at the end of after you cast it anyway. So that would be another interesting option. And it's super nice with Glacia in particular, because Glacia has some proactive ways to cast it in terms of discarding and freezing things and dulling things. If it comes back to your hand, you can feel good about like dulling it, getting a swing in, and then it comes back to your hand anyway. So there's definitely some good options out there for you.
That's fair. Yeah, I like that. I guess one other thought to add on to that was I built this deck not really caring too much about Barthandelus' second ability. And I don't know if you've had this experience. Because I was thinking, it's just like, I want to get the ETB and I want to kill 2 things, and that's awesome. Anything else on top of that is a bonus. And I very rarely got to dull and freeze backups. I think maybe it was a grand total of 2 backups that I dull and froze over the 3 games. I don't know if you had the same experience, Alex.
Just the first game
were
was
just able to play. People just seem to be able to play around it fairly easily. So yeah, I'm glad. I mean, I know people are looking at building Barthandelus and in vain. I'm not sure how successful those will be. It's just based on this week's testing and stuff.
Sorry.
But no, I definitely missed something here. Just Realm is so good, and 6 engine is so consistent.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think you're right. Like my deck's certainly pretty ambitious, but I felt like the Barthandelus part of my deck was really solid. Like I've been able to use him multiple times today to clear stuff, and there's just so many ways to combo with him. So I think it's like a viable combo. I do think Realm with the Cleone and no summons might be the way to go, just because then you can be more proactive and less reactive, because you don't have summons to react with anyway. You're just getting on board, and it's really hard for them to clear you because they don't have summons available to them because of the Cleone. So I thought that worked out really well. The only
certainly messed me up.
Yeah. The only change I would make to my list is I would take out the nickel, because I have plenty of ways to combo with Barthandelus, and I would put 1 Kadajin instead. And that was a suggestion from Stephen Riley, because he well, he proved to us all how good Kadaj is, but he just mentioned that with your opponent's only opportunity to interact with Kadaj on your turn, having Cleone out would make it almost impossible to get rid of a Kadaj. So that certainly sounds pretty nice to me.
I like that. That's really interesting, actually. I didn't think of that. I like that.
Yeah. All right. Any other thoughts about our decks, boys?
I kind of just want to hear Phil say that Realm is a really good card one more time.
I just want that. If you remember anything about me, I just want that to be the one thing. I want to be really clear.
That
and also
is a good card.
Yeah, and also 2 CPs of Dawn isn't as good as David's.
Yeah. Well, I mean, don't be careful there. Our listeners are excited to hear about an FF9 deck next week. Okay, so let's not tell them the card sucks.
Should have recorded.
It's a really good card. It is a really good
card. Okay, well, I think we're gonna just kind of take off at this point because we've said all there is to say. It's been pretty fun so far in Opus 11 playing online. I think I might actually be getting more matches at times than I would have been otherwise, although I do really miss the in-person locals. Yeah, we're going to sign off. So, thank you so much for listening, everybody. Don't forget to use that promo code PORUMPALUM10 at cardsevilise.com to get a discount on your order. And you can read my articles at themysidiapost.com and check me out at YouTube. I'm also on Facebook and on Twitter at Mysidia. And then finally, we're all going to say thank you to FF Decks. So everybody say F yeah, FF Decks.
F yeah, FF Decks.
F yeah, FF Decks.
Phil, there was no spirit in that. That was brutal. Come on now.
I'll practice. My next time back, it'll be better. I promise, guys.
Yeah, it's a big assumption that you're going to get asked to come back on this podcast. All right, so why don't you guys say goodbye?
Bye, Phil.
Bye, everyone. Stay safe.
Thanks for listening, Mysidians, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for watching this video. You can check out my articles at themysidiapost.com and support my Patreon at patreon.com/themysidiapost. Please be sure to check out cardsevilise.com for all your FFTCG singles and product needs. I also want to thank FF Decks for creating a fantastic site that we use every day. Until next time, keep it real, Mysidians.